glass breaks as we come back in to Josh and Swain. We say hello to Austin Price from Volquest.com. He joins us each week thanks to Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Austin, thank you for the time as always. Tennessee's football team, we've talked about fans and the back and forth there between Tennessee and Kentucky. What do you sense from Tennessee's football team? 7-0, getting ready for a big game ahead of what likely is a bigger game right against Georgia, but Kentucky coming to town on Saturday.
I think they're focused. This team, because of the leadership of it, I don't think we'll look ahead. I don't think they'll get caught in that proverbial trap game where they're looking ahead to that big matchup in Athens between the hedges. I think they'll be very focused. And, again, this is a Kentucky team that pushed them a year ago. Tennessee was able to come out on top 45-42, but Tennessee could have easily been on the other side of that. So they know Kentucky's a solid ball club with good players, and I think they'll be really focused to get off to a hot start on Saturday.
What's the status on Tillman? I know he has been out for a couple of weeks, had the procedure done, and do you feel like we see a lot of him or a little of him? Where is his status?
Well, he's been practicing this week. I think you'll see him. I do believe he will play. I'm not sure you'll see him play 70 snaps, Jason, and he didn't have to, right? I mean, that's why Ramel Keaton's been so valuable. Kind of work him back in, let him get 30 or 40 snaps, and I think that'll be a positive for him. But, I do think that he's going to push himself to go. He's done more and more the last 2 weeks, especially this week. And, again, I don't think you have to, play him 75 snaps, which is a nice luxury for Tennessee.
How about on the other side of the ball, the secondary? What do you hear about availability, guys who needed to be off last week, have dealt with injury issues in the secondary? There's also the question of Jalen McCullough's status that is separate from the injuries. But what do you hear on the defensive backfield side for Tennessee?
Well, I think that this is a secondary that's got a lot of question marks, right? I mean, there's Christian Charles probably to me is the biggest one of them. He's got a bit of I believe, a hamstring. Kamal Haddon's got a hamstring, but I think he's a little, further along than Christian Charles is. So for my liking, Charles is the one I'm watching the most as to possibly not being available. And, I think that's, probably kind of everyone else minus Jalen McCullough, I think will be available come Saturday. And, again, Tennessee needs to be healthier than they were. Brandon Turnage, jammed his neck up. It wasn't a concussion. I know a lot of people thought that just because he hit his head, but he jammed his neck. And that's kind of, why they kind of held him the rest of the game, because I think he jammed it pretty good. But they've done a lot of rehab on that this week, and he's feeling much better and should be good for Saturday.
If you are Kentucky, and it's Halloween coming up here in a couple of days, if you're Kentucky, who is the scariest player on Tennessee's roster? And if you are Tennessee, who do you think is the scariest player on Kentucky's roster?
Well, for Kentucky, I think, the scariest person on Tennessee's roster is Hendon Hooker.
Yeah.
Just because, you have to watch him with his legs. He made some plays last year with his legs. And obviously he provides so much when it comes to throwing the football. If you go away from that, I'm going to go Byron Young, go the opposite end of the spectrum, not go offense, but go defense, Jason. And that's kind of where I think that the offensive line for Kentucky, which has struggled, a good portion of the year, could rear its ugly head again against Byron Young, who's got progressively better each and every week. Almost like last year, he gets stronger as the season goes along. You see him more active each and every week. As for Tennessee being, fearful of a Kentucky player, to me it's Barryon Brown because, they'll try to get him the ball out in space on offense, and then what he can do in the punt return game, the kick return game is special. Kid's a player.
Austin Price, Volquest.com, with us here on Josh and Swain every week, thanks to Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. And maybe part of this was just answered, but we were asked about the matchup, Tennessee versus Kentucky, that is top of mind for you. Is there a matchup within the game that is most interesting to you between the Vols and Wildcats?
I think for me it's Tennessee's offensive line versus Kentucky's defensive line. Kentucky's defensive line is fairly active, but Tennessee's offensive line has been really, really good the last several games, and they've really stepped up. J.J. Crawford has stepped up when Gerald Mincy couldn't play. They've had continuity. They've been healthy, and I'm knocking on wood when I say that. Darnell Wright has been every bit of his ranking coming out of high school and then some. And so to me, that's kind of the matchup I'm looking for. Tennessee's ability to run the ball and pass protect against Kentucky's defensive line.
Austin Price, Volquest.com here. Your guy when it comes to Tennessee football recruiting. Big weekend for recruiting. Night game. I know there are some players committed to Tennessee that either are from Kentucky or was looking at Kentucky. What kind of visitors do you think we will see this weekend? Any idea?
Well, Arion Carter will be here officially, a linebacker from Smyrna. It's a Tennessee-Alabama battle, and right now I'd say Alabama's kind of the team to beat for him. Outside of that, we'll see what players make it in unofficially. Tennessee's been obviously kicking the tires with a guy like Stanton Ramil, Michigan State offensive tackle commit, TJ Searcy, another one that Tennessee's been kicking the tires with. Do they make it in this weekend? Do they not? And I don't know that either one of them are scheduled to be here, but at the same time, Tennessee's always trying to get kids to campus as much as possible. I think that those are the kind of the names to watch when you're talking about guys that are committed elsewhere.
Austin, how much work is left to be done with the 23 class?
Prep rank, a few spots. I think you'll go, hard on the transfer portal. Again, there is no limitation. So Tennessee could technically sign 40 kids as long as they only got 45 on the roster to, get to 85. Again, how much attrition do you have in the off season? Well, to me, will determine how much, how many additions you can have by the transfer portal. But, you look at the prep ranks. Tennessee would love to add another running back. Maybe that's Khalifa Keith, the Kentucky commitment. They'd love to add David Hobbs. They'd love to add, an offensive tackle. Maybe that is Stanton Ramil. Maybe not. Maybe they have to go to the portal for that. There are positions where Tennessee's got to get better, going into next season. And so I think a lot of it depends on who's available. I don't think Tennessee's just going to take a body to take a body like we've seen in years past. I think they can be more selective.
Team Petty Swain, you'd like to take one more commit from Kentucky. Am I wrong on that?
I like taking commits from anybody. They help Tennessee win. That's how I look at it. So we know that with the portal, with the NIL, there's going to be transition with maybe our roster and other people's roster. You just got to make sure that you have the right guys on your team that you feel comfortable with to go out and win. And Tennessee probably will have to deal with that here in a few weeks, Austin.
Yeah, you're right. You're going to see, players go in the portal. You'll see, some players that maybe, you didn't think would go in the portal. Then I think there'll be some guys that, you probably think, oh, that guy's definitely going in the portal. But that kid probably right now sitting around thinking, man, look at Jalen Hyatt, man. He was nowhere to be found a year ago. Now look at him. Look at, what, Theo Jackson did a year ago, or, so on and so forth. There's plenty of Ramel Keaton, another one, plenty of players that you can kind of, circle and go, that guy just kind of hung around and put work in. That guy kind of hung around and put work in. Didn't knee jerk and feel the need to, hop in the portal like so many kids in college football have done. So I think there'll be a few of those as well, that ones that maybe you think are leaving that don't.
Yeah. Last night on Tennessee Prime, AP, we had Dominic Bailey, defensive lineman, and then tackle J.J. Crawford. Had some really, really good comments by both of those guys. What comment by either one of those two stood out to you the most?
I just think just the mindset, just how, Dominic Bailey putting work in, seeing other guys kind of, put their head down and go to work, and kind of seeing the fruits of their labor kind of pay off. Bailey is a guy that, is in the rotation for Rodney Garner. Rodney Garner's been very happy with what he's given them as a redshirt freshman. And then J.J. Crawford I think he's just kind of a happy-go-lucky, taking it all in stride. I know we made light of the whole throwing up and stuff on the field, for Alabama, but at the same time, kid he embraces whatever's thrown his way. If he needs to be a good teammate and Gerald Mincey's in the game, he'll be a good teammate. If he needs to go out there and, pass protect or run block, and at LSU on the road in his first start, he'll do that too. And I don't think he gets, fazed by a whole lot.
You think he's been the biggest surprise on this football team individually? I know Hyatt's had a great, year so far, scoring 5 touchdowns, but just individually, you think Crawford's been the biggest surprise for you?
Well, the last couple of weeks, sure. I mean, the way he did down at LSU, in his first start, I think there was probably some, worry going into that football game just because, the scene, who you're playing against, who you're going against, playing in Death Valley, all that, and he held up really, really well. So, again, sometimes kids are just, he's just a gamer. Sometimes you practice how you play and vice versa, but there's some kids that just kind of rise to the occasion, and clearly he's done that. And I think he's very comfortable run blocking. I think it's he mentioned last night getting better in pass protection. He knows where he's got to improve, and I think that's something that he's committed to do.
Austin Price, Volquest.com. You can read and see his work, his colleagues' work there at the website, Volquest.com, and he joins us every week thanks to Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They make it unique, make it special, make it just for you, and they want to be your jeweler there at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Austin, we appreciate the time as always. An early happy Halloween. We'll see you this weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week. Thanks for the time as always.
Don't steal your kids' candy, AP.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Dad text. You got to take it.